When her father sold her to pay a debt, Serena Vale knew she was going to die. The Mafia boss who bought her, Adrian Russo, was a man feared across the city, a name whispered in dread. She'd seen the bruises her father had left, felt the weight of being disposable. But when Adrian looked at her that first night, he didn't see property. He saw something her father never had. A person. What should have been her end became something else entirely. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this journey reaches. The rain came down in sheets that night, turning the streets into rivers of black glass. Serena sat in the back of her father's Mercedes, her ribs screaming with every shallow breath. She kept her eyes on the window, watching the city lights blur into watercolor smears. If she focused on that, maybe she wouldn't think about where they were going. Maybe she wouldn't feel the bruises blooming purple-black along her arms, her stomach, the side of her face her father had backhanded when she'd asked why. Gregory Vale didn't answer questions. He gave orders. "Fix your face," he said now, not looking at her. His hands were steady on the wheel, his jaw set in that familiar line of irritation, like she was an inconvenience, like she'd somehow caused this. Serena touched her cheek gingerly, felt the heat of swelling under her fingertips. "I don't have anything to—" "Then keep your head down." His voice was flat, businesslike, the same tone he used when closing deals. "Don't speak unless he asks you a direct question. Don't make eye contact. Don't do anything stupid." She swallowed. Her throat felt tight. "Dad, please." "I'm not your father anymore." The words came out sharp, final. "After tonight, you're his problem." The car took a turn onto a private road, away from the streetlights, into darkness broken only by the high walls that rose on either side. Serena's stomach twisted. She'd heard the name Adrian Russo before. Everyone had. He owned half the city, the half that didn't show up in newspaper headlines or charity galas, the half that operated in shadow and silence and the kind of violence that made people disappear. Her father owed him money. A lot of money from what she'd pieced together from overheard phone calls and her father's increasingly short temper. And now Gregory Vale, respected businessman, philanthropist, pillar of the community, was handing over his daughter like a debt payment. The gates opened. The car rolled through. Serena had imagined something dark, industrial. A warehouse, maybe, or some grim underground space where men conducted business in blood and broken bones. Instead, the estate sprawled before them like something out of a different world, stone and glass, lit from within by warm amber light. Gardens stretched into the rain-soaked darkness, fountains, sculptures, the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. Gregory parked near the entrance, killed the engine. For a moment, neither of them moved. "Get out," he said finally. She did. The rain hit her immediately, cold and sharp. She crossed her arms over her chest, the thin dress she wore offering no protection. Her father had told her to wear it. Something presentable, he'd said. She'd known what that meant. She'd known and she'd put it on anyway, because refusing would have been worse. The front doors opened before they reached them. A man stood there, older, dressed in a suit that probably cost more than Serena's entire wardrobe. He looked at Gregory first, then at her, and something flickered in his expression. Pity, maybe, or disgust. Hard to tell. "Mr. Vale," the man said. "He's waiting." They followed him inside. Marble floors, high ceilings, art on the walls that Serena couldn't name but recognized as expensive. Everything was clean, ordered, controlled, the kind of space where violence seemed impossible until you remembered who lived here. They were led through corridors, past rooms she glimpsed but couldn't process, until they reached a set of double doors. The man knocked once, then opened them without waiting for an answer. The room beyond was an office, bookshelves, a massive desk, leather chairs. A fireplace burned low in the corner, and standing near it, glass of something amber in his hand, was Adrian Russo. Serena had expected someone older, someone grotesque maybe, marked by the life he led. Instead, he looked like he could have been on the cover of a magazine, tall, dark-haired, maybe mid-30s. Sharp suit, sharper eyes. He studied them both as they entered, his expression giving away nothing. "Gregory," he said. His voice was calm, almost pleasant. "You're late." "Traffic," her father said. A lie. They'd left with plenty of time. Adrian's gaze shifted to Serena, lingered. She kept her eyes down like her father had told her, but she could feel the weight of his attention, heavy and assessing. "This is her?" Adrian asked. "Yes." Gregory's hand found Serena's shoulder, squeezed hard enough to hurt. A reminder. "My daughter, as we discussed. As you begged," Adrian corrected quietly. He set his glass down, moved closer. "You came to me 3 weeks ago. Said you needed more time. I gave it to you. Then you called again, said you had another solution." He stopped in front of Serena, close enough that she could smell expensive cologne and something else underneath. Cigarette smoke, maybe. "This is your solution." Gregory's hand tightened. "She's worth more than what I owe. She's a person, Gregory, not a commodity." Adrian's tone hadn't changed, but something underneath it made Serena's father go quiet. "How old is she?" 23. "Look at me," Adrian said. It took Serena a moment to realize he was talking to her. She lifted her head slowly, met his eyes. They were dark, unreadable. He looked at her face, at the bruise she knew, and then down at her arms where more marks showed against her pale skin. "Did he do that?" Adrian asked. Serena's breath caught. No one had ever asked. Not the one time a teacher had noticed. Not the neighbor who'd heard things through the walls. No one asked because asking meant getting involved, and getting involved with Gregory Vale's business was something people avoided. "Answer him," her father hissed. "Yes," Serena whispered. Adrian's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the room, a temperature drop, a tightening. "Leave," Adrian said. Gregory blinked. "What?" "I said leave. We'll discuss the rest later. Go." "Now, wait just a—" Adrian moved. It wasn't threatening exactly, but Gregory shut his mouth mid-sentence and took a step back. Serena felt her father's hand fall away from her shoulder, felt him retreat. "We had a deal," Gregory said, voice tight. "And now we have a different one," Adrian replied. "I'll be in touch. Go." For a second, Serena thought her father would argue, would drag her back out to the car, find some other solution to his debt. But he didn't. He turned and walked out, and the door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like the end of something. Serena stood there, shaking, from cold, from fear, from the reality that her father had actually done it, had actually traded her away and walked out without looking back. "Sit," Adrian said, gesturing to one of the chairs. She sat, perched on the edge, ready to run even though there was nowhere to go. Adrian returned to his spot by the fire, picked up his glass, took a sip. The silence stretched out, broken only by the crackle of burning wood and the rain against the windows. "You're hurt," he said finally. Serena nodded, didn't trust her voice. "When did he hit you?" "Tonight, before we came here, but also—" She stopped. Why was she telling him this? "Also what?" "Other times." The words came out small. "A lot of other times." Adrian was quiet for a moment, then, "Your ribs?" She touched her side without thinking, winced. "I think one might be cracked." "We'll have a doctor look at that." He moved to the desk, pressed a button on what looked like an intercom. "Marcus, get Dr. Chen. Tell her it's not optional." A voice crackled back confirmation. Serena watched him, trying to understand. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. She was supposed to be, what, locked up? Claimed? Used? But he hadn't touched her, hadn't done anything except send her father away and call a doctor. "I don't understand," she said. Adrian looked at her. "What don't you understand?" "Why you're—" She gestured vaguely. "My father said that I was—" "Payment?" Adrian finished. "Yes, that's what he offered. But I'm not in the habit of accepting people as currency." "Then why did you agree to this?" "I didn't." He set his glass down again, leaned back against the desk. "I agreed to a meeting. Your father assumed the rest." Serena's head spun. "So what happens now?" "Now?" Adrian considered. "Now you get medical attention. Then you eat something if you're hungry. Then you sleep. Tomorrow, we'll figure out the rest." "I don't have anywhere to go," Serena said quietly. "If you send me back, I'm not sending you anywhere." The certainty in his voice made her look up. "Your father made it clear he doesn't want you back. And even if he did, I wouldn't allow it." Why not? Because, Adrian said simply, I've met men like Gregory Vale before. The kind who polish their image until it shines while everything underneath rots. The kind who hurt the people they're supposed to protect and call it discipline. The kind who... He stopped, seemed to catch himself. Let's just say I recognize what I'm looking at. The door opened. A woman entered, older, professional, carrying a medical bag. Dr. Chen, Serena assumed. This is Serena, Adrian said. She needs to be examined. Possible broken rib, various contusions. Make sure nothing's serious. Dr. Chen nodded, set her bag down, turned to Serena with a gentle expression. Let's take a look at you, honey. Adrian moved toward the door. I'll be downstairs if you need anything. Then he was gone, and Serena was left with this stranger who was being kinder to her than anyone had been in years. She let Dr. Chen examine her, answer questions about where it hurt and how long and when, tried not to cry when gentle fingers pressed against her ribs and the pain flared white-hot. Not broken, Dr. Chen said finally. Badly bruised, but not broken. You're lucky. Serena didn't feel lucky. The doctor gave her something for the pain, cleaned the cut above her eyebrow, wrapped her ribs, talked to her in a low, soothing voice about rest and recovery and keeping the wounds clean. Then she packed up her things and left, and Serena was alone in the big office with the dying fire and the rain outside. She didn't know how long she sat there before the door opened again. Not Adrian this time, a different woman, younger, dressed in simple dark clothes. I'm Elena, she said with a slight accent. Russian, maybe. I'll show you to your room. My room. Yes, come. Serena followed because there was nothing else to do. They went upstairs, down another corridor lined with closed doors, until Elena stopped at one and pushed it open. The room beyond was bigger than Serena's entire apartment had been. A massive bed with white linens, windows overlooking the grounds, a bathroom she could see through an open door, all marble and soft lighting. There are clothes in the closet, Elena said. Probably not your size, but better than what you're wearing. Bathroom has everything you need. If you're hungry, there's a kitchen downstairs, or you can call and someone will bring something up. She pointed to a phone on the nightstand. Just press 0. Serena stared at her. Why are you being nice to me? Elena's expression softened. Because Mr. Russo told us to. But also because you look like you could use some kindness. She moved toward the door, paused. He's not what you think, you know. Mr. Russo. Everyone has stories, but... She shook her head. Get some rest. Things will make more sense in the morning. Then she was gone too, and Serena was alone. She moved through the room slowly, touching things to make sure they were real. The bed was soft. The clothes in the closet were expensive. Designer labels she recognized from stores she'd never been able to afford. In the bathroom, there were thick towels and fancy soaps and a tub big enough to drown in. She caught sight of herself in the mirror and stopped. The bruise on her face had darkened, purple spreading into blue. Her lip was split. Her eyes looked hollow, scared. She looked like a victim, like prey. She looked away. The shower was hot enough to hurt. She stood under it until the water ran clear, until her skin was pink and the shaking finally stopped. Changed into a t-shirt she found that hung to her knees, crawled into the bed and pulled the blankets up to her chin. Sleep didn't come. She lay there in the dark, listening to the rain, trying to understand what had happened. Her father had sold her, had driven her here, handed her over, and left. And Adrian Russo, the man who was supposed to be a monster, had sent him away and called a doctor, and given her a room with a door that locked from the inside. She knew because she'd checked. None of it made sense. Sometime near dawn, she finally slept. And when she woke, sunlight was streaming through the windows and someone was knocking softly on the door. Miss Vale? A voice, young, male. Mr. Russo asked me to let you know breakfast is ready, if you'd like some. Serena sat up, winced at the pull in her ribs. Okay, thank you. Footsteps retreated. She got up slowly, found clothes that almost fit, leggings and a sweater that was too big but warm. Made her way downstairs, following the smell of coffee and something cooking. The kitchen was huge, all stone counters and professional appliances. Adrian sat at an island in the center, reading something on a tablet, a cup of coffee at his elbow. He looked up when she entered. How do you feel? He asked. Sore. She hesitated in the doorway. But better. Sit. Elena made enough food to feed an army. Serena sat on the stool across from him. Elena appeared with a plate. Eggs, toast, fruit. Set it down with a smile and disappeared again. Eat, Adrian said. Then we'll talk. She ate. She was hungrier than she'd realized, and the food was good. Real. When she finished, Adrian pushed the coffee toward her. You take it black? I don't usually. Try it. Elena makes it better than anyone I know. She tried it. He was right. Adrian set the tablet aside, focused on her fully. I need to ask you some questions. They're going to be personal. If you're not ready, say so. Serena wrapped her hands around the coffee cup. Okay. How long has your father been hurting you? Since I was 14, after my mom died. And before that? Before that, he ignored me mostly. I was her problem. After she was gone, I was just in the way. Adrian's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Has he ever... He stopped. Has he hurt you in ways other than hitting? It took Serena a moment to understand what he was asking. No, just what you saw. Hitting, shoving. One time he threw a glass at me and I needed stitches, but nothing. Not that. Adrian nodded slowly. Good. That's good. Does anyone else know? Teachers, friends, police? I didn't have friends. Teachers don't ask if you keep your grades up and don't make trouble. And my father is Gregory Vale. People don't question him. No, Adrian said quietly. They don't. Serena set the coffee down. Why are you asking me this? Because I need to know what I'm dealing with. Your father didn't just owe me money, Serena. He's been borrowing from multiple sources, running schemes, cooking books. He's built an empire on debt and lies, and it's finally catching up to him. Bringing you here was his Hail Mary. If I accepted you as payment, he thought it would buy him time, leverage, maybe sympathy. He thought wrong. So what happens to him? That depends. Adrian leaned back. On you, partly. On me? Your father is going down. That's not a question. But how far? How public? How devastating? That I can control to some degree. The question is what you want. Serena stared at him. What I want? Yes. You. What do you want to happen? No one had ever asked her that before. What do you want? As if her wanting mattered. As if she had any say in how her life went. I don't know, she said honestly. That's fine. You don't have to know yet. Adrian stood, picked up his coffee. For now, you're safe here. You have a room, food, anything you need. Take time. Think about it. When you're ready, we'll talk about next steps. And if I want to leave? He looked at her steadily. Then you leave. You're not a prisoner, Serena. You never were. But my father, your father doesn't get a vote anymore. Adrian's voice was firm, final. Whatever happens next, it's your choice. Not his, not mine. Yours. He left her there in the kitchen with the morning sun streaming through the windows and a strange, unfamiliar feeling spreading through her chest. Hope, maybe, or something close to it. The days that followed had a surreal quality. Serena moved through the estate like a ghost, never quite sure if she was guest or prisoner, despite Adrian's assurances. Elena brought her meals. Dr. Chen checked on her injuries. A young man named Marcus, the one who'd knocked on her door that first morning, made sure she had everything she needed. Adrian himself was often gone, disappearing for hours or full days into whatever business he conducted. But when he was there, he'd find her, ask how she was feeling, if she needed anything. Sometimes they'd talk, small things, surface things. Sometimes they'd sit in companionable silence. It was during one of these quiet moments, a week into her stay, that Serena finally asked the question that had been building. They were in what Adrian called the library, though it was more like a cathedral of books. Floor-to-ceiling shelves, rolling ladders, reading nooks with leather chairs. Serena had found it on her third day and had been coming back ever since. Adrian was working at a desk in the corner. Serena was curled up in one of the chairs, a book she wasn't really reading open in her lap. Why did you really take me in? She asked. Adrian looked up. I told you. No. You told me what you didn't do and what my father assumed, but you didn't tell me why you're doing this, keeping me here, helping me. You don't owe me anything." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he closed the file he'd been reviewing and turned his chair to face her. "When I was 17, he said, "my father sold my sister to settle a gambling debt." Serena's breath caught. She was 15, beautiful, smart. She wanted to be a doctor. Adrian's voice was even, but something underneath it was sharp as broken glass. "The man who took her, he hurt her, not right away. He kept her for 6 months, playing husband, making her think maybe it wouldn't be so bad. Then one night he decided he was bored and he hurt her so badly she never fully recovered. What happened to her? She came back to us broken. Died by her own hand 2 years later." Adrian's hands clenched briefly, then relaxed. "My father never apologized, never acknowledged what he'd done. Died drunk in a ditch 5 years after that, still owing money to everyone who'd ever been stupid enough to trust him. And the man who hurt her? I killed him." Adrian said it simply, like stating a fact. "Not right away. Took me years to get close enough, powerful enough. But I killed him. Slowly." Serena should have been scared, should have recoiled, but she wasn't. She just felt sad. For the sister he'd lost, for the boy he'd been. "Is that why you help people?" she asked. "To make up for what happened to her?" "I don't help people," Adrian said. "Let's be clear about that. I'm not a good man, Serena. I've done things, terrible things. I run an organization built on fear and violence. I've hurt people who deserved it, and people who didn't. I'm not a hero." "Then what are you?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "A hypocrite, maybe. Someone who can't stomach certain kinds of cruelty even while committing others. When I saw you that night, saw what your father had done, what he was trying to do," he shook his head. "I couldn't let it happen. Call it penance or selfishness or whatever you want, but I couldn't." Serena closed the book, set it aside. "What happens now?" "Now we make your father pay." Adrian stood, moved to the window that overlooked the grounds. "He's been scrambling this past week, trying to cover his tracks, call in favors, find new money. But I've been busy too. I've got accountants going through his finances, lawyers looking at his contracts, people talking to people. The picture that's emerging, it's ugly, Serena, really ugly." "Tell me." "Are you sure?" "Yes." So he did. He told her about the charities her father had embezzled from, the investors he'd defrauded, the properties he'd bought with dirty money and rented out to desperate people at criminal rates, the workers he'd exploited, the bribes, the blackmail, the carefully constructed image that hid a man who'd spent 20 years stealing from anyone who trusted him. "And me?" Serena asked when he was done. "Where do I fit in all this?" "You were his insurance policy." Adrian turned from the window. "Literally. He took out a life insurance policy on you 3 months ago, $2 million. If you died..." Serena's stomach dropped. "He was going to kill me." "I think he was working up to it. The abuse was escalating. The desperation was growing. And then when I called in his debt, he saw an opportunity. Bring you here, hand you over to the big bad Mafia boss, hope that I'd do his dirty work for him." "But you didn't." "No." Adrian's expression was hard. "I didn't. And now he's stuck. He can't collect on the policy because you're alive. He can't come after you because I won't allow it. And he can't run because I have eyes everywhere. He's trapped." "Good," Serena said. She was surprised by the venom in her own voice. "I hope he suffers." "He will." Adrian moved closer. "But I need to know how far you want this to go. I can ruin him quietly, destroy his finances, make him disappear into debt and obscurity. Or I can make it public, loud, humiliating. I can make sure everyone who ever respected him knows exactly what he is." Serena thought about all the years of pain, the bruises hidden under long sleeves, the times she'd flinched at sudden movements, the way he'd looked at her that last night, not like a daughter, but like a problem to be disposed of. "I want everyone to know," she said. "I want them all to see what he really is." Adrian smiled. This time it was real. "Then that's what we'll do." "What?" The plan took shape over the next 2 weeks. Adrian brought in people, investigators, journalists, lawyers. They built a case not just against Gregory Vale, the criminal, but Gregory Vale, the monster. Every piece of evidence was documented, verified, prepared for maximum impact. During this time, something shifted between Serena and Adrian, The distance that had existed, the polite formality of host and guest, began to erode. They talked more about their pasts, their lives, the things that had shaped them. He told her about building his empire from nothing, about the choices he'd made and the things he regretted. She told him about her mother, about the before times when life had been different, about the dreams she'd had before her father had beaten them out of her. He taught her things too: how to read people, how to spot lies, how to stand in a room full of powerful men and make them listen, how to be afraid and do it anyway. "You're stronger than you think," he told her one afternoon. They were in a training room. Apparently, Adrian had a whole setup for boxing and martial arts. He'd suggested she learn some self-defense, and she'd agreed. "Your father spent years trying to break you, and you're still standing. That's not weakness." Serena blocked a punch, countered like he'd shown her. "I don't feel strong." Strength isn't about never being hurt. It's about getting up after. He stepped back, lowered his hands. Again, faster this time. She went again and again, until she was sweating and her muscles burned and something inside her felt just a little bit lighter. That night she found him in his office. He was at his desk, surrounded by papers, a glass of whiskey at his elbow. "How much longer?" she asked from the doorway. He looked up. "Until what?" "Until we're ready to go after him." "Soon, maybe a week. There's a gala coming up. Your father's being honored for his charitable work." Adrian's smile was sharp. Seemed like the perfect venue. Serena stepped into the room. "I want to be there." "Serena, no. I need to be there. I need to see his face when it all falls apart." Adrian studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Okay, but we do it my way. Controlled. Safe. You follow my lead." "I will." "And Serena?" He stood, came around the desk. "After this, after we destroy him, what then? What do you want?" She'd been thinking about that, about what came after revenge, after justice, after everything. "I want to help people," she said. "People like me. People who've been hurt and have nowhere to go. I want to build something. Something real." "Then we'll build it," Adrian said simply. "Together." It wasn't a promise of forever. Wasn't a declaration of love or anything like that. But it was a partnership. A recognition that they'd both been broken in different ways, and maybe, together, they could make something whole. Serena slept better that night than she had in years. The gala was everything Serena expected: crystal chandeliers, designer gowns, men in tuxedos drinking expensive champagne and pretending to care about charity. The city's elite gathered to celebrate one of their own. Gregory Vale stood near the center of it all, holding court, smiling his perfect smile. He looked good, confident, like a man who'd weathered a rough patch and come out clean on the other side. He hadn't seen her yet. Serena stood at the entrance to the ballroom, Adrian at her side. She wore a dress he'd had made for her, dark blue, elegant, expensive. Her hair was up. The bruises had faded enough that makeup could hide them. She looked like she belonged here. "Ready?" Adrian asked quietly. Serena nodded. "Let's do this." They entered together. Heads turned. People noticed Adrian first. He was impossible not to notice, commanding and dangerous even in formal wear. But then they saw her, saw them together, and the whispers started. Gregory noticed. She saw the moment he spotted her across the room, saw his face go pale, then red, saw his hand tighten on his champagne glass, hard enough she thought it might shatter. He started toward them, but Adrian's hand found the small of Serena's back, a gentle touch, grounding. "Not yet," he murmured. "Let him sweat." They circulated. Adrian introduced her to people, business owners, politicians, socialites. Serena smiled and nodded and said very little, but she was there, visible, alive, undeniably present in a place her father had never thought she'd be. The speeches started. A representative from one of Gregory's charities talked about his generosity. A city councilman praised his civic contributions. And then Gregory himself took the stage. All practiced humility and rehearsed gratitude. Serena watched him. Watched this man who had hurt her for years accept praise he didn't deserve, and something cold and hard settled in her chest. Adrian's hand found hers, squeezed once, the lights dimmed, a screen lowered behind Gregory. His speech faltered. He turned, confused, as images began to flash across the screen. Financial records, bank statements, property deeds. All of it damning, all of it real. Then came the photos. Serena as a child, hospital records from the one time the school had forced her father to take her in. More recent bruises, documented by Dr. Chen, the life insurance policy with its cold calculation of her worth. The room went silent, deadly silent. Gregory's face was white now. He looked out into the crowd, searching for what? An escape? Support? But no one moved, no one spoke. They all just stared at the screen, at the evidence of what he really was. "Gregory Vale," a voice said. The doors opened. Police filed in, led by a detective Serena recognized from the news. "You're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, assault, and attempted murder." Everything happened fast after that. Gregory tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. They cuffed him while the crowd watched. Someone was crying. Someone else was already on the phone, probably calling their lawyer to make sure they had distance from the scandal. Gregory's eyes found Serena's as they led him past. There was rage there, hate, but underneath it, something else. Fear. "You did this," he hissed. "You ungrateful little—" "Yes," Serena said clearly. "I did." And she didn't feel guilty, didn't feel conflicted. She felt free. They took him away. The gala dissolved into chaos, people leaving, reporters arriving, the whole perfect facade crumbling in real time. Adrian guided Serena out a side entrance, away from the cameras and questions. They got into his car and drove back to the estate in silence. It was only when they were inside, when the doors were closed and locked and the world was shut out, that Serena finally let herself feel it. The weight lifting, the terror receding, the knowledge that her father would never hurt her again. "Thank you," she said to Adrian. He looked at her. "You did this. Not me." "We did it," she corrected. "Together." He smiled, reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear in a gesture so gentle it made her chest ache. "What happens now?" he asked. The same question, but this time it felt different. "Now," Serena said, "we build something better." And they would. She knew it with absolute certainty. The path ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be trials, media storms, people who wouldn't believe or wouldn't care. But she'd walked through fire already. She'd survived. She could handle whatever came next, because she wasn't that scared girl in the back of her father's car anymore. She was Serena Vale, and she was done being a victim. This was just the beginning. The headlines hit before sunrise. Serena woke to her phone buzzing with notifications she didn't remember setting up. News alerts, social media mentions, messages from numbers she didn't recognize. She sat up in bed, ribs still tender but healing, and scrolled through the chaos her life had become overnight. Philanthropist Gregory Vale, arrested on multiple charges. Financial empire built on fraud collapses. Daughter reveals years of abuse. That last one had a photo. Her and Adrian leaving the gala, his hand on her back, her face caught in profile. She looked older than 23, looked tired, but she also looked alive. A knock at the door made her look up. "Come in." Elena entered with a tray, coffee, toast, fruit. "Mr. Russo thought you might want breakfast in your room this morning. The front gate has reporters." "How many?" 15 at last count." Elena set the tray down, poured the coffee. "Marcus is keeping them back, but they're persistent. One tried to climb the wall an hour ago." Serena picked up the coffee cup, wrapped her hands around it. The warmth helped. "Is Adrian awake?" "He's been up since 4. On the phone with lawyers mostly." Elena hesitated. "He wanted me to tell you, you don't have to deal with any of this if you're not ready. He can handle the press, the questions, all of it." "I know." Serena took a sip. "But I should probably face it eventually." "Eventually doesn't have to be today." After Elena left, Serena showered and dressed, taking her time. The face in the mirror looked different than it had a week ago. The bruises were fading to yellow-green, the split lip had healed, but it was more than that. Something in her eyes had changed, hardened maybe, or just woken up. She found Adrian in his office, exactly where Elena had said he'd be. He was on the phone, speaking in rapid Italian to someone who was clearly arguing with him. When he saw Serena in the doorway, he held up one finger, 1 minute, and wrapped up the call with a few sharp sentences that sounded like threats, even though she couldn't understand the words. "Sorry," he said, setting the phone down. "My cousin thinks he knows better than I do how to handle a public relations nightmare." "Does he?" "No." Adrian gestured to the chair across from his desk. "How are you holding up?" Serena sat. "I've been better. I've also been worse." "Fair." He pushed a folder across the desk. "This is everything that's going to come out in the next 72 hours. Financial crimes, witness statements, forensic accounting. Your father's lawyers are already scrambling, but they don't have much to work with. The evidence is airtight." She opened the folder, scanned the first few pages. Numbers she couldn't fully process. Legal terminology that might as well have been another language. But the conclusion was clear enough. Her father was finished. "What about me?" she asked. "The reporters at the gate, what do they want? Your story, an interview, a statement, anything that'll get clicks." Adrian leaned back in his chair. "I can make them go away if you want, or I can arrange something controlled. One interview, your terms, no ambush questions." "With who?" "There's a journalist I trust, Sarah Chen. She's done work on corruption before, takes the long view. If you're going to talk to anyone, talk to her." Serena closed the folder. "What would I even say?" "The truth." Adrian's gaze was steady. "Or as much of it as you want to share. But Serena, you don't owe anyone your pain. Not the public, not the media. If you want to stay silent, that's your right." She thought about it. About staying hidden while other people told her story, shaped the narrative, decided what she was. Victim, survivor, pawn. Whatever label fit their agenda. "Set it up," she said. "The interview. I'll do it." Adrian nodded slowly. "Okay. But we do it here in the estate. Controlled environment, and I'll be there if you want me there." "I do." The phone rang. Adrian glanced at the screen, frowned. "I need to take this. It's Detective Morris. He's handling your father's case." Serena stood to leave, but Adrian waved her back down. "Stay. This concerns you too," he answered on speaker. "Morris. Russo." The detective's voice was gravelly, worn down by too many years and too many cases. "We've got a problem." "What kind of problem?" "The kind where Gregory Vale's lawyers just filed for bail. They're claiming he's not a flight risk, has ties to the community, the whole song and dance. Judge is hearing arguments this afternoon." Adrian's expression went cold. "He's not getting out. I'm doing everything I can, but his lawyers are good. They're painting him as a victim of a vendetta, saying you orchestrated this whole thing to destroy a business rival. That's insane. Is it?" Morris didn't sound convinced. "Look, I believe the evidence. I know what he did. But Vale's got friends in places that matter, and they're calling in favors. I need something stronger, something that'll make the judge throw the bail request out without thinking twice." Adrian looked at Serena. She knew what he was asking without him saying a word. "The life insurance policy," she said. "That's attempted murder. He can't bail out on that." "We need proof of intent," Morris said. "The policy alone isn't enough. He can claim it was standard estate planning. We need something that shows he actually planned to kill you." Serena's mind raced. She thought back through the months before her father had brought her to Adrian, the escalating violence, the comments that hadn't made sense at the time but looked different now in hindsight. "He told me I was worthless," she said slowly, "multiple times. Said the world would be better off without me. I thought it was just, the usual cruelty. But there was this one night, maybe 6 weeks ago. He'd been drinking. He said something about how everyone has a value, even if it's only what they're worth, dead." Morris was quiet for a beat. "You remember the exact words?" "I think so. He said, even worthless things have value to someone, sometimes more dead than alive." Then he laughed. "That's good," Morris said. "That's really good. But I need more. Phone records, emails, anything that shows premeditation." Adrian's fingers were already moving across his keyboard. "I'll have my people dig deeper into his communications. If there's anything there, we'll find it. Do it fast. Bail hearing is at 2. The call ended. Adrian kept typing, sending messages, making calls. Serena watched him work, this man who'd somehow become her ally, her protector, Maybe something more complicated than either of those words could capture. You didn't have to tell Morris that, Adrian said without looking up, about what your father said to you. Yes, I did. It'll come out in court. You'll have to testify, repeat it in front of strangers. Defense attorneys will tear into it, try to make you sound unreliable. Let them try. Serena stood, moved to the window. Outside, she could see the reporters still clustered at the gate, cameras ready, waiting for something worth filming. I'm done being afraid of him. By noon, Adrian's people had found what they needed. Emails between Gregory and his financial advisor discussing the insurance policy in detail. Text messages to a contact saved only as Jay about handling the problem and making it look natural. Phone records showing calls to a known enforcer 2 days before Gregory had brought Serena to Adrian's estate. Morris called back at 1:30. We've got him. Judge denied bail. Vale's staying locked up until trial. Serena felt something release in her chest, a tension she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. There's more, Morris continued. We arrested the enforcer, guy named Jimmy Rourke. Small-time muscle, big-time stupid. He's already trying to cut a deal. Says Gregory hired him to, quote, take care of a family problem, unquote. Paid half up front, promised the rest after the job was done. Adrian's hand tightened on the phone. What was the job? Make it look like an accident. Break-in gone wrong, maybe, or a car crash. Something that wouldn't point back to Vale. Morris exhaled heavily. If you hadn't taken her in that night, we'd probably be investigating a homicide right now. After the call ended, Serena excused herself. She made it to her room before the shaking started, before the reality of how close she'd come crashed over her. She'd known, intellectually, that her father had planned to kill her. But hearing it confirmed, hearing the casual way he'd arranged her murder, like it was just another business transaction, that made it real in a way that hollowed her out. She sat on the edge of the bed, trying to breathe through it, trying not to fall apart. Another knock. Serena? Adrian's voice. Can I come in? Yeah. He entered, closed the door behind him, took in her state with one glance and sat beside her, close but not touching. I'm okay, she said. You're not, and that's okay too. He really was going to kill me. The words came out small, broken. His own daughter. I know. What kind of person does that? The kind who only sees people as assets or liabilities. Adrian's voice was quiet. The kind who never should have been a father. Serena wiped at her eyes, angry at the tears. I don't want to cry over him anymore. He doesn't deserve it. You're not crying over him. You're crying over what should have been and wasn't. That's different. They sat in silence for a while. Eventually, Serena's breathing steadied. The shaking stopped. Thank you, she said, for everything, for keeping me safe, for believing me. You don't have to thank me. I do, though. She looked at him. You could have just paid off my father's debt and sent us both away. But you didn't. Why? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Because I know what it's like to be powerless. To watch someone hurt the people you love and not be able to stop it. When I saw you that night, I saw my sister, and I couldn't just walk away. Is that all I am to you? A second chance? No. He met her eyes. At first, maybe. But not anymore. Then what? He smiled, sad and small. I'm still figuring that out. The interview with Sarah Chen happened 3 days later. She arrived mid-morning, professional but warm, carrying a recorder and a notebook, and none of the aggressive energy Serena had braced herself for. They sat in the library, Serena's favorite room in the estate. Adrian stayed nearby but out of frame, his presence a silent reassurance. Sarah asked gentle questions at first, about Serena's childhood, her mother, what life had been like before the abuse started. Serena answered carefully, aware that every word would be printed, analyzed, judged. But Sarah had a way of listening that made it easier, like she actually cared about the answers beyond their headline value. Then the questions got harder. When did you realize your father intended to kill you? Sarah asked. Serena took a breath. When the detective told me about the enforcer he'd hired. Before that, I knew he hated me, knew he hurt me. But I didn't let myself think he'd actually go that far. That must have been terrifying. It was. It still is sometimes. I wake up and forget for a second that he's in jail, that he can't get to me. Then I remember and I can breathe again. What do you want people to know about Gregory Vale? Serena considered. That he's not who he pretended to be. Everyone saw this successful businessman, this generous donor, but that was a mask. Behind it was someone who hurt people for sport, who stole and lied and destroyed lives without blinking. I want people to know the truth. And what about Adrian Russo? Sarah's gaze shifted briefly to where Adrian sat. There are people saying he's using you, that this is all about revenge or business rivalry. Those people are wrong. Serena's voice came out stronger than she expected. Adrian saved my life. He didn't have to. He could have turned me away or worse, but he gave me safety and time and the resources to fight back. I'm not some pawn in a gang war. I'm a person who was being abused and found help in an unexpected place. Sarah made notes, nodded. One more question. What happens next for you? I don't know yet, Serena admitted. I'm still figuring out who I am beyond being Gregory Vale's daughter. But I know I want to help people who are trapped like I was. I want to build something that matters. That sounds like a good place to start. After Sarah left, promising the article would run in 3 days and that Serena would see it before publication, Adrian poured them both a drink. Whiskey, neat. Serena took hers and sat on the couch, exhausted but also lighter somehow. You did good, Adrian said, settling into the chair across from her. I didn't cry. I'm calling that a win. You were honest. That's better than a win. Serena sipped the whiskey, felt it burn. She asked about us, about what you are to me. I heard. I didn't really answer. I noticed. That's because I don't know how to answer. Serena set the glass down. What are we, Adrian? He looked at her for a long time. I think we're two people who found each other in the dark. What that becomes, I guess we'll find out. It wasn't a declaration, wasn't a promise of anything specific, but it was honest, and that felt like enough. The next week brought more chaos. The trial date was set. More evidence came out. Gregory's business partners started turning on him, giving statements to save themselves. His assets were frozen. His reputation was ash. Through it all, Serena stayed at the estate. She trained with Adrian most mornings, boxing, self-defense, rebuilding strength in her body that had been beaten down. She read in the library. She worked with Elena and Marcus on plans for the foundation she wanted to build. And she talked to Adrian, late into the night sometimes, about everything and nothing. They were dancing around something. Both of them knew it. But neither was ready to name it yet. Then one night, everything shifted. Serena couldn't sleep. She went downstairs looking for tea and found Adrian on the back terrace, smoking a cigarette and staring out at the dark grounds. I didn't know you smoked, she said. He glanced back, smiled slightly. Only when I'm stressed. Bad habit from my 20s. What are you stressed about? Your father's lawyers are pushing for a plea deal. Reduced charges in exchange for testimony against some of his business partners. Serena moved to stand beside him. Will it work? Not if I have anything to say about it. He took a drag, exhaled smoke into the night air. He doesn't get to weasel out of this. What if he does? Then we make sure everyone knows what kind of deal he took and why. We make sure he never has a moment of peace for the rest of his miserable life. The venom in Adrian's voice should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel protected, valued, like someone finally gave a damn what happened to her. Can I ask you something? She said. Always. Do you think I'm broken? Adrian turned to face her fully. No, I think you're healing. There's a difference. I don't feel like I'm healing. I feel angry all the time. At him, at myself for not fighting back sooner, at the world for letting it happen. Anger's part of healing. He stubbed out the cigarette. You think I wasn't angry after my sister died? I was furious for years. That anger kept me going when I wanted to give up. Eventually it transformed into something else, something more useful, but it had to exist first. What did it transform into? Purpose. He stepped closer. The decision to never let something like that happen again, if I could prevent it. To build power not just for myself, but to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. It's imperfect. I'm imperfect, but it's better than doing nothing. Serena looked up at him. They were close enough now that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, could smell the smoke and cologne, and something underneath that was just him. "I'm glad you didn't do nothing," she said softly. "That night my father brought me here. I thought I was going to die. I'd made peace with it, in a way. But you changed that." "You changed it," Adrian corrected. "I just gave you the space to do it. We both did it then." "Yeah." His hand came up, brushed her cheek. "We did." The kiss happened slowly, a lean, a breath, a moment of hesitation where either of them could have pulled back, but neither did. His lips were gentle against hers, careful, like he was afraid she might break. She kissed him back, letting herself feel something other than fear for the first time in years. When they pulled apart, his forehead rested against hers. "Is this okay?" he asked quietly. "Yes." She was surprised by how much she meant it. "Is it okay for you?" "More than okay." They stayed like that for a while, breathing the same air, existing in the same space. It wasn't love yet. Serena wasn't sure she knew what love felt like anymore. But it was connection, understanding, the recognition that they'd both been through hell and come out the other side scarred, but standing. Later, in her room, Serena lay in bed and let herself think about what had happened. About the kiss, about Adrian, about the fact that she was developing feelings for a man who most of the world considered dangerous. But the world didn't know him like she did, didn't see the gentleness underneath the ruthlessness, didn't understand that sometimes the people society called monsters were just people who'd learned to survive in a world that offered no other option. She fell asleep thinking about the future, about the foundation she'd build, about the women she'd help, about the life she was constructing from the ruins of the old one. And for the first time in years, her dreams weren't nightmares. The morning after this kiss, Serena woke to sunlight streaming through her windows and the sound of raised voices downstairs. She dressed quickly, still tender in places but moving easier now, and followed the noise to Adrian's office. The door was half open. Inside, Adrian stood facing a man Serena had never seen before. Older, maybe 60, wearing an expensive suit that didn't quite hide the hardness underneath. His face was flushed with anger. "You're making a mistake," the man was saying. "Vale's got connections you don't want to mess with. People who won't forget this. Then they can get in line with everyone else who has a problem with me." Adrian's voice was cold, controlled. "I'm not backing down, Vincent. This isn't business anymore. You've made it personal. That girl upstairs? Watch it." The temperature in the room dropped. "Very carefully watch what you say next." Vincent held up his hands. "I'm just saying people are talking, saying you've gone soft, that you're letting some waitress play you because she's got a sob story and a pretty face." Serena should have stayed hidden, should have turned around and gone back upstairs. But something hot and furious rose in her chest, and before she could think better of it, she pushed the door open and walked in. Both men turned. Vincent's eyes raked over her, dismissive and calculating at once. Adrian's expression shifted to something between frustration and concern. "I'm not a waitress," Serena said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm a survivor, and I'm not playing anyone." Vincent smiled, sharp and ugly. "So she speaks. Adrian, you want to introduce us properly, or should I guess?" "Vincent Caruso," Adrian said flatly, "my business partner, or he was until about 30 seconds ago." "Don't be dramatic." Vincent's attention stayed on Serena. "You know what you've done, girl? You've painted a target on your back. Vale's people, they're not going to just let this go. You humiliated him, destroyed him publicly. That has consequences." "Good," Serena said. "He deserves worse than humiliation." "Maybe he does. But you think you're safe here? You think Adrian can protect you from everyone who wants to use you to get to him?" Vincent shook his head. "You're a liability, and liabilities get people killed." Adrian moved between them, his body language pure threat. "Get out. Adrian, out, now. Before I forget, we used to be friends." Vincent stared at him for a long moment, then shrugged. "Your funeral." He headed for the door, paused next to Serena. "Watch your back, sweetheart. This world eats girls like you alive." Then he was gone, his footsteps echoing down the hall. Serena's hands were shaking. She crossed her arms to hide it. "Is he right?" About what? Adrian's jaw was tight. About me being a liability. About putting a target on my back. Serena. No, I need to know. Am I putting you in danger by being here, by going after my father? Adrian exhaled slowly, ran a hand through his hair. Vincent's scared. Your father had deals with some of his associates, and now those deals are falling apart. He's looking for someone to blame. That's not an answer. Fine. Yes, there are people who aren't happy about what's happening to Gregory Vale. People who did business with him, people who owe him favors, people who think I've overstepped. But those people were always going to be a problem. You didn't create that. You just brought it into the light. Serena moved to the window, looked out at the grounds. He called me a liability. He's wrong. Is he? She turned back to face Adrian. Be honest with me. Has this whole thing, has me being here, made your life harder? Adrian was quiet for a moment. Then he crossed the room to stand in front of her. Yes, it's made things complicated. Some of my associates think I've lost focus. Others think I'm using you for some long game they haven't figured out yet. And there are people like Vincent who think you're a weakness they can exploit. The honesty hurt, but Serena appreciated it more than a comforting lie would have. But here's what Vincent and everyone else doesn't understand, Adrian continued. I don't care what they think. You're not a liability or a weakness or a pawn. You're a person who deserved better than what you got, and I'm not going to apologize for giving you a safe place to land. Even if it costs you? Even then. His hand found hers. Last night wasn't a mistake, Serena. I need you to know that. It wasn't a mistake for me either. She squeezed his hand. But I also need to know what I'm walking into. If there are people out there who want to hurt me to get to you, then they'll have to go through me first. Adrian's eyes were hard. And I promise you, they won't make it. A knock interrupted them. Marcus appeared in the doorway, his expression serious. Sorry to interrupt, but Detective Morris is here, says it's urgent. Morris looked exhausted when they met him in the sitting room. He declined coffee, got straight to business. We've got a problem, he said. Gregory Vale was attacked in jail last night. Serena's stomach dropped. Is he? He's alive. Stabbed twice, but nothing vital hit. He's in the prison hospital. Morris pulled out a notebook. The attacker was another inmate, guy named Frank Salerno, low-level enforcer, in for assault. Let me guess, Adrian said. Salerno has connections to people Vale screwed over. That's the working theory, but here's where it gets interesting. Salerno's claiming he was paid to do it. Says someone on the outside hired him through a middleman, promised to take care of his family if he took Vale out. Did he succeed? Serena asked. No, guards got there in time. Morris looked at her. But whoever ordered this is going to try again. Your father's being moved to protective custody, but that only goes so far. If someone wants him dead badly enough, they'll find a way. Serena should have felt something, fear for her father maybe, or satisfaction that someone else wanted him to suffer. Instead, she just felt numb. Why are you telling us this? Because the DA thinks it might be connected to you, or to Adrian. Morse's gaze shifted between them. They're wondering if maybe you wanted Vale dead before he could testify, before he could make a deal. That's insane, Serena said. Is it? Morris didn't sound accusatory, just tired. Look, I don't think you did it. I don't think Adrian did it either. He's smarter than hiring some prison thug for a hit job. But the optics are bad. Vale's lawyers are already spinning this, saying their client is being targeted, that this whole case is a vendetta. Adrian's expression was unreadable. What do you need from us? Alibis for last night, phone records, anything that proves you weren't involved. You'll have them in an hour, Adrian said. Anything else? Yeah, watch your backs, because whoever wanted Vale dead might decide you're next. After Morris left, Serena paced the sitting room while Adrian made calls. Her mind was racing, trying to piece together who would want her father dead and why. The list was probably long. Gregory had made plenty of enemies over the years, but the timing was suspicious. Right as everything was falling apart, right as he was considering a plea deal. Stop, Adrian said, hanging up his phone. Stop what? Spiraling. I can see it happening. Serena stopped pacing, turned to face him. Someone tried to kill my father in jail. The police think we might be involved. How am I supposed to not spiral? By remembering that we didn't do this. We have nothing to hide. He moved toward her. Morris is just covering his bases. He knows we're clean. Do we know who actually did it? I'm making calls. If it's someone in my world, I'll find out. And if it's not, then we deal with it when we know more. Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned. I need to handle this. Will you be okay for a bit? I'll be fine. But after he left, Serena didn't feel fine. She felt exposed, vulnerable in a way she hadn't since that first night. Someone out there wanted her father dead. Someone dangerous enough to reach inside a jail and almost succeed. And if they decided she was a problem too, she went to the library trying to lose herself in a book, but the words wouldn't stick. Her mind kept returning to Vincent's warning. This world eats girls like you alive. Elena found her there an hour later. You okay? Everyone keeps asking me that. That's because you look like you're about to shatter. Elena sat across from her. What happened? Serena told her about the attack, about Morris's visit, about the implications. Elena listened without interrupting, her expression thoughtful. You're scared someone's going to come after you, Elena said when Serena finished. Shouldn't I be? Probably. But being scared and being stupid are different things. You're under Adrian's protection. That means something in this city. Vincent didn't seem to think so. Elena snorted. Vincent's a coward who's mad that Adrian has a conscience. Don't listen to him. Adrian said he used to be a friend. Used to be, past tense. People change, or you find out they were never who you thought they were. Elena leaned forward. Look, I've worked for Adrian for 8 years. I've seen him do things that would give you nightmares, but I've also seen him protect people who had no one else. He's not a saint, but he's not a monster either. And he cares about you. Anyone with eyes can see that. That's what scares me, Serena admitted. What if caring about me gets him hurt? Then that's his choice to make, not yours. Elena stood. Come on, sitting here thinking in circles isn't helping anyone. Let's go do something useful. Serena followed her to the kitchen, where Elena put her to work chopping vegetables for dinner. It was oddly calming, the repetitive motion, the simple task. They worked in comfortable silence for a while before Elena spoke again. Can I ask you something personal? Sure. What do you want? Not what Adrian wants, not what the police want, not what justice demands. What do you actually want? Serena considered while she diced an onion. I want to feel safe. I want to stop looking over my shoulder. I want my father to pay for what he did, but I also want... She paused. I want to move forward, to build something, not just survive, but actually live. That's good. That's a start. Elena scraped carrots into a pot. And Adrian? Where does he fit in all that? I don't know yet. Serena set down the knife. A month ago, I didn't think I'd be alive. Now I'm here, and I have options, and I'm feeling things I didn't think I'd ever feel again. It's terrifying. Feelings usually are. What if this is just trauma bonding, or whatever they call it? What if I only think I care about him because he saved me? Elena smiled. What if it's not? What if it's real and messy and complicated, but still worth it? Before Serena could answer, Marcus appeared in the doorway. Adrian needs you both. Now. They found Adrian in his office with 3 men Serena didn't recognize. The atmosphere was tense, dangerous. Adrian's expression was carved from stone. Serena, Elena, wait outside, he said. No. Serena surprised herself. If this is about me, I want to know. Adrian looked like he wanted to argue, but one of the other men spoke first. Let her stay. She should hear this. The man was younger than the others, maybe early 30s, with scars on his knuckles and eyes that had seen too much. He looked at Serena with something like respect. I'm Tony, he said. I run security for the East Side. Someone put a contract out on your father 2 days ago. $500,000 for a clean kill, double if it looks like an accident. Serena's blood went cold. Who? That's the question. Tony glanced at Adrian. The contract came through an intermediary, anonymous payment, no direct contact, but the intermediary, he's worked for the Castellano family before. Adrian's hands clenched. Marco Castellano? That'd be my guess. Who's Marco Castellano? Serena asked. Your father's biggest investor, Adrian said. Or he was until everything went public. Gregory lost him about 20 million when the fraud came out. So he wants revenge. He wants to cut his losses, Tony corrected. Your father alive means trials, testimony, more exposure. Dead, he's just another cautionary tale. The money's gone either way, but at least Marco doesn't have to worry about getting dragged into it. One of the other men, older with graying hair, spoke up. There's more. Castellano's been asking questions about the girl. Where she's staying, who's protecting her, what her schedule looks like. Everything in the room went still. He's going to come after me, Serena said. It wasn't a question. He might, Adrian said carefully, or he might just be gathering information. Either way, we're not taking chances. What does that mean? It means you don't leave the estate without security. It means we increase patrols, upgrade systems, make sure everyone knows you're under protection. Adrian's voice was hard. And it means I'm going to have a conversation with Marco Castellano about boundaries. No, the word came out sharp. You can't go after him because of me. I'm not going after him. I'm going to talk to him. Adrian, this is what I do, Serena. This is the world I live in. Sometimes conversations prevent problems. Sometimes they don't. But I need to try. Did Tony and the other men left after delivering a few more details? When the door closed behind them, Serena turned to Adrian. You can't risk yourself for me. I'm not risking anything. I'm managing a situation before it gets out of control. By confronting a man who wants me dead? By reminding him that you're protected, that going after you means going through me. Adrian moved closer. Serena, I need you to understand something. The people in my world respect power and consequences. If I let Marco make threats without responding, it shows weakness, and weakness gets people killed. I don't want anyone killed. Neither do I. That's why I'm going to talk to him first. He touched her face gently. Trust me. Please. She wanted to argue more, wanted to find some way to fix this that didn't involve Adrian walking into danger. But she also understood, maybe for the first time, what his world actually looked like. It wasn't just wealth and power. It was constant negotiation, constant threat assessment, constant balancing of violence and diplomacy. When? She asked. Tonight. Marcus is setting it up now. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. Adrian, no. His voice left no room for argument. This is one thing I won't compromise on. You stay here where it's safe. I go, I talk, I come back. End of discussion. Serena wanted to fight him on it, but she could see it wouldn't work. Fine, but if something happens to you, it won't. He left at 8, taking Marcus and 2 other men whose names Serena didn't know. She watched from the window as the cars pulled away, her stomach in knots. Elena appeared beside her with tea. He'll be fine. He's done this 100 times. That doesn't make it less terrifying. No, but it's who he is. Elena handed her the cup. You need to decide if you can live with that, because this, the danger, the uncertainty, the world he operates in, it doesn't go away. It's always going to be part of the package. Serena sipped the tea, tasted chamomile and honey. Did you ever have to make that choice? No. I came to work for Adrian knowing what he was. But you got thrown into this. That's different. I don't know if I can do this long term, Serena admitted. Be with someone who might not come home, who has enemies that want to hurt him. Then you need to figure that out before you get in any deeper. Elena's voice was gentle but firm. Because he's falling for you. Anyone can see it. And if you're not sure you can handle his world, it's kinder to walk away now than later. The words sat heavy in Serena's chest. She thought about Adrian's kiss, about the way he looked at her like she mattered, about the safety she felt when he was near and the terror when he wasn't, about the future she wanted to build and whether it had room for someone like him. She was still thinking about it 2 hours later when the cars returned. Serena met Adrian at the door, searching his face for signs of injury, of violence, of anything wrong. I'm fine, he said before she could ask. What happened? Let me pour a drink first. In his office, Adrian poured himself whiskey, and one for Serena too. He drank half of his before speaking. Marco and I came to an understanding, he said. He cancels the contract on your father. He stops asking questions about you. In exchange, I don't make an issue of his involvement in Vale's schemes. That's it? That's it. We shook hands. He knows crossing me would be bad for business. I know pushing him too hard would start a war neither of us wants, so we walked it back. Serena wanted to feel relieved, but something in Adrian's expression worried her. What aren't you telling me? He finished his drink, set the glass down carefully. Marco had a message for you, said to tell you that your father's death would have been a kindness, that what's coming for him in court, in prison, in the years ahead, it'll be worse than anything a quick death could offer. He said you should think about that. Is he right? Probably. Adrian's eyes met hers. Gregory's going to spend the rest of his life locked up, his reputation destroyed, everyone knowing what he really was. No money, no power, no escape. For a man like him, that might actually be worse than death. Good, Serena said quietly. I want him to suffer. Does that make me a bad person? No, it makes you human. Adrian moved closer. But Serena, at some point you're going to need to let go of the anger. Not for him, for you, because carrying that much hate, it'll poison you eventually. I know. She leaned into him when he pulled her close. I'm just not ready yet. That's okay. You've got time. They stood like that for a while, wrapped in each other, both of them carrying weight they couldn't quite name. Eventually, Adrian pulled back enough to look at her. I need to ask you something, he said. Okay. Are you staying because you want to, or because you don't have anywhere else to go? The question caught her off guard. Why are you asking? Because I need to know. If you're here because you feel obligated, or because you're scared to be alone, or because you think you owe me something, I need you to tell me, so I can stop falling for you before it gets any worse. Serena's breath caught. You're falling for me? Yes. No hesitation. I have been since the night you told your father you exposed him. Since I saw you stand there, broken, but not beaten, and own what you'd done. I'm falling for you, and it's going to hurt like hell if you're not in this for the right reasons. What are the right reasons? Because you want to be. Because when you think about the future, I'm in it. Because this, he gestured between them, is something you want to fight for. Serena thought about Elena's question earlier. What do you want? Not what anyone else wanted, not what made sense, not what was safe or logical or expected. What did she actually want? I'm scared, she said finally. I'm scared of your world, of the danger, of the fact that I might lose you. I'm scared that I don't know how to be in a relationship because every example I ever had was toxic. I'm scared that I'm not strong enough for this. That's not an answer. I know. She took a breath, but I'm staying anyway. Because when I think about leaving, about going somewhere else and building a life without you in it, it feels wrong, incomplete. You saved my life, Adrian, but it's more than gratitude. I don't know what to call it yet, but it's real. His forehead touched hers. That's good enough for now. Is it? Yeah. We'll figure out the rest as we go. They kissed, slower this time, deeper. When they finally pulled apart, Serena felt something shift. A decision made, a line crossed. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. The trial was still ahead. Her father's reckoning. The foundation she wanted to build. All of it waiting, demanding attention and energy and courage she wasn't sure she had. But for tonight, she let herself just be here, safe in Adrian's arms, alive despite everything, building something new from the wreckage of the old. It wasn't perfect. Neither of them were. But maybe that was the point. The trial started on a gray morning in October, 3 months after Serena had walked into that gala and watched her father's world collapse. She dressed carefully that day, a navy suit Adrian had bought her, hair pulled back, minimal makeup. She wanted to look strong, composed, nothing like the broken girl her father had tried to erase. Adrian drove her to the courthouse himself, Marcus following in a second car with 2 more security guys whose names Serena still mixed up. The media was already camped outside, cameras and microphones forming a gauntlet they'd have to pass through. You ready? Adrian asked, his hand finding hers. No, but I'm doing it anyway. They got out of the car to an explosion of questions and camera flashes. Serena kept her eyes forward, Adrian's hand firm on her back as they pushed through the crowd. She caught fragments of shouted questions. Miss Vale, how do you feel? Is it true you're living with Adrian Russo? Do you want your father to get the death penalty? Inside was quieter, but no less intense. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Linda Hartwell, met them in the hallway outside the courtroom. "How are you holding up?" Linda asked Serena. "I've been better." "You're going to testify today. Defense is going to try to rattle you, make you seem unstable or vindictive. Don't let them." Linda's eyes were kind but firm. "Just tell the truth. That's all we need." The courtroom was packed. Serena spotted reporters in the gallery, victims of her father's fraud schemes, former business associates maintaining careful distance. And there, at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit that stripped away every last piece of his polish, sat Gregory Vale. He looked smaller than Serena remembered, thinner. His hair had gone more gray, and there were lines around his mouth that hadn't been there before. When his eyes found hers across the room, she saw rage and something that might have been fear. Good. Let him be afraid for once. The judge entered, an older black woman with silver hair and an expression that suggested she'd seen every trick in the book and wasn't impressed by any of them. The trial began with opening statements. Linda laid out the case methodically: fraud, embezzlement, assault, attempted murder. Each charge backed by mountains of evidence, witness testimony, paper trails Gregory had thought he'd hidden well enough. The defense attorney, a slick-looking man named Richard Porter, painted a different picture. A successful businessman targeted by vengeful criminals and a troubled daughter with mental health issues. Gregory Vale as victim, not perpetrator. Serena's hands clenched in her lap. Adrian's thumb rubbed circles on her wrist, steady and grounding. The first witnesses were the financial experts, walking the jury through the labyrinth of shell companies and fraudulent transactions. It was dry, technical, but necessary. Serena watched the jury's faces, trying to gauge what they were thinking. A few looked confused by the complexity. Others looked angry. Then came the victims. A retired teacher who'd invested her pension in one of Gregory's schemes and lost everything. A small business owner who'd been promised contracts that never materialized. A charity director whose organization had been gutted by Gregory's embezzlement. One by one, they told their stories, and with each one, the air in the courtroom got heavier. Gregory sat expressionless through it all, occasionally leaning over to whisper to his lawyer. Serena wondered what he was saying. Was he trying to spin it, find some angle that would save him? Or was he finally realizing there was no way out? The trial recessed for lunch. Adrian took Serena to a small room the prosecution had set aside for them, away from the cameras and crowds. "You okay?" he asked, handing her a bottle of water. "I don't know." Watching all those people, hearing what he did to them, Serena twisted the cap off the bottle. "I knew he was bad, but hearing it all laid out like that, it's different. He hurt a lot of people, including me." She took a sip of water. "Linda said I'm testifying this afternoon. I thought it would be tomorrow." "Change of strategy. They want your testimony fresh in the jury's mind before the weekend." Adrian sat beside her. "You don't have to do this. You could invoke your Fifth Amendment rights, refuse to testify." "No, I need to do this." Serena set the water down. "He needs to hear me, needs to know I'm not afraid anymore." "You're sure?" "I'm sure." When court reconvened, Linda called Serena to the stand. The walk from her seat to the witness box felt like miles. She was sworn in, her hand on a Bible she didn't believe in, promising to tell the truth. As if she'd come this far to lie now. Linda started with easy questions: her name, her age, her relationship to the defendant, establishing the basics. Then the questions got harder. "Miss Vale, can you describe your relationship with your father?" Serena took a breath. "He was my father biologically, but he wasn't a parent. After my mother died when I was 14, he changed, or maybe he just stopped pretending." "What do you mean by that?" "He became violent, angry all the time. I tried to stay out of his way, but it didn't matter. If I spoke too loud or got a grade he didn't like, or just existed wrong, he'd hit me." "Can you give an example?" "When I was 16, I forgot to pick up his dry cleaning on my way home from school. He backhanded me hard enough that I hit the wall, gave me a concussion. He told the hospital I'd fallen down the stairs." Gregory's lawyer stood. "Objection? Relevance." "Your Honor, this establishes a pattern of abuse that directly relates to the attempted murder charge," Linda said. "I'll allow it. Continue." Linda walked Serena through years of abuse. The broken ribs, the split lips, the fear that had become her normal. Serena kept her voice steady, factual, refusing to cry even when the memories threatened to choke her. She could feel the jury watching her, feel their horror and sympathy. Then Linda brought out the insurance policy. Miss Vale, were you aware your father had taken out a $2 million life insurance policy on you? Not until Detective Morris told me about it, no. How did you feel when you learned about it? Terrified. Because it meant he'd been planning to kill me. That everything he'd done, the escalating violence, bringing me to Adrian Russo's estate, it was all building toward my death. Objection, Porter said. Speculation. Sustained. The witness will stick to facts, not interpretation. Linda nodded. Let me rephrase. Did your father ever say anything that made you fear for your life? Yes, multiple times. But there was one night, about 6 weeks before he brought me to Mr. Russo's estate. He'd been drinking. He told me that even worthless things have value to someone, sometimes more dead than alive. Then he laughed. The courtroom was silent. Even Gregory's lawyer looked uncomfortable. What did you think he meant by that? Linda asked. I thought he meant I was worthless, that the only value I had was… Serena's voice caught. She forced it steady again. Was what he could get for me if I wasn't around anymore. Linda asked a few more questions, then turned Serena over to the defense. Porter stood, buttoned his jacket, approached the witness stand with a smile that made Serena's skin crawl. Miss Vale, you've told us quite a story today. Very emotional, very compelling. His tone was condescending. But I have to ask, is it true? Objection, Linda said. Counsel is testifying. Withdrawn. Porter's smile didn't waver. Miss Vale, isn't it true that you have a history of mental health issues? I saw a therapist after my mother died. That's not the same as mental health issues. But you were prescribed medication for depression and anxiety, correct? Yes, because my father was abusing me. Or because you were a troubled teenager acting out and your father was trying to help you. Porter picked up a file. I have medical records here showing multiple visits to therapists, psychiatrists, even a brief hospitalization when you were 17. Doesn't that suggest instability? Serena's hands gripped the armrests of the witness chair. I was hospitalized because I tried to kill myself. Because living with my father was so unbearable that death seemed like the only way out. That's not instability. That's survival. Or it's a young woman with serious psychological problems looking for someone to blame. Porter set the file down. Isn't it possible, Miss Vale, that you've constructed this narrative of abuse to justify your own issues? That you've partnered with Adrian Russo, a known criminal, to destroy your father because you're angry about your difficult childhood? No. Serena's voice was hard. That's not what happened. Really? Because it seems convenient that right when your father's business was struggling, right when he owed Mr. Russo money, you suddenly appear with these accusations. Almost like it was planned. It wasn't planned. He beat me for 9 years. He tried to have me killed. That's not a narrative. That's the truth. Porter smiled like he'd scored a point. But we only have your word for that, don't we? No witnesses to most of these alleged incidents. No police reports filed at the time. Just your word against his. There are medical records, hospital visits, photos of my injuries, which could have been caused by any number of things. Falls, accidents, self-harm. Porter leaned against the witness box. The truth is, Miss Vale, you're a troubled young woman who found a powerful man willing to believe your stories and use them for his own purposes. Isn't that what really happened? Something hot and furious rose in Serena's chest. She looked past Porter to where her father sat, watching with those cold eyes that had haunted her nightmares for years. Then she looked at the jury, at their faces, at the doubt Porter was trying to plant. You want to know what really happened? Serena's voice came out low, controlled. What really happened is my father spent 9 years making me feel worthless, beating me, breaking me down, making sure I knew I didn't matter. And when that wasn't enough, when I was still alive and still in his way, he tried to have me murdered so he could cash in on a life insurance policy. That's what happened. And no amount of victim blaming or character assassination is going to change those facts. Porter's smile slipped. I'm not blaming… Yes, you are. You're standing there trying to make the jury think I'm crazy or vindictive or lying, but I'm not. I'm someone who survived abuse and found the courage to speak up. If that makes me unstable, then fine. But it doesn't make me wrong. The courtroom was silent. Porter recovered quickly, asked a few more questions that Serena answered calmly, factually. But the damage was done. The jury had seen her fight back, had heard the truth in her voice. When Linda re-examined her, she kept it brief. Miss Vale, one last question. Why did you decide to testify today? Because I wanted my father to hear me, to know that I'm not his victim anymore, and because I wanted everyone else who he hurt to know they're not alone. That speaking up matters, that the truth matters. Thank you. No further questions. Serena was dismissed. She walked back to her seat on shaking legs, sat down next to Adrian, who immediately took her hand. Her whole body felt like it was vibrating, adrenaline and fear and relief all mixing together. You did good, Adrian whispered. I wanted to punch him. I know, I could tell, but you didn't, and that's what matters. The prosecution rested their case that afternoon. The defense started theirs the next week, calling character witnesses who swore Gregory Vale was a pillar of the community, a generous employer, a misunderstood businessman. But their testimony felt hollow after everything the jury had heard. Gregory himself took the stand on the second day of the defense case. Serena forced herself to watch as he spun his version of events. A devoted father, driven to desperate measures by financial difficulties. A man who'd made mistakes but never meant to hurt anyone. He even cried at one point, talking about losing his wife and struggling to raise a troubled daughter alone. It was a good performance. Practiced, polished, almost believable if you didn't know better. Then Linda Hartwell got her turn. Mr. Vale, you've painted quite a picture of yourself as a victim of circumstance, but I'd like to ask you about some specific incidents. She pulled out a file. Hospital records from when your daughter was 16. Concussion, contusions consistent with being struck. You told the hospital she fell downstairs. Was that true? That's what she told me happened. So your daughter lied to you about being injured? Gregory's jaw tightened. She was going through a difficult phase. Sometimes she hurt herself for attention. Hurt herself by giving herself a concussion? I don't know. I wasn't there. No, you were at a business dinner, according to your calendar. Interesting that your daughter had a serious injury while you were conveniently absent. Linda moved closer. Let's talk about the life insurance policy. Why did you take out a $2 million policy on your daughter 3 months before allegedly bringing her to Adrian Russo's estate? It was a standard financial planning decision. Protecting my assets. Your assets? Your daughter is an asset? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Because it seems odd to insure someone you claim to care about for such a large sum, right when your finances were collapsing. Linda pulled out another document. We have emails between you and your financial advisor discussing this policy. In one, you write, and I quote, "The girl might be the only way out of this mess." What did you mean by that? Gregory's composure cracked slightly. I meant I was considering asking her to get a job, help with expenses. A job that would pay $2 million? You're twisting my words. I'm reading your own emails, Mr. Vale. Linda's voice was sharp. Let's talk about Jimmy Rourke. Did you hire him to kill your daughter? No, absolutely not. Mr. Rourke says otherwise. He's willing to testify that you paid him $25,000 up front to make her death look like an accident. He's lying. Why would he lie? He's facing serious charges. Cooperating with prosecutors is his only chance at a reduced sentence. What would he gain from falsely implicating you? Gregory didn't answer immediately. His lawyer whispered something to him, but Linda didn't give him time to regroup. You can't answer because there's no good answer, is there? The truth is, you hired Rourke to kill your daughter so you could collect on that insurance policy and pay off your debts. Isn't that what really happened? No, Gregory said, but his voice lacked conviction. Linda asked more questions, each one peeling away another layer of Gregory's facade. By the time she was done, he looked exactly like what he was, a desperate man caught in his own lies. The defense rested. Closing arguments happened 2 days later. Linda was methodical, walking the jury through every piece of evidence, every witness, every lie Gregory had told. Porter tried to salvage it, but there wasn't much he could do with a case built on smoke and mirrors. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Serena spent that time in the small room with Adrian, unable to eat or sit still. What if they didn't believe her? What if Gregory's lawyers had planted enough doubt? What if he walked free? Stop, Adrian said finally. You're going to make yourself sick. I can't help it. Come here. He pulled her into his arms, held her while she tried to breathe through the panic. Whatever happens, we deal with it. Together. The call came at 4:30. The jury had reached a verdict. Back in the courtroom, Serena sat between Adrian and Linda, her heart hammering so hard she thought everyone could hear it. The jury filed in, their faces unreadable. Gregory stood as the judge asked for the verdict. On the count of fraud in the first degree, how do you find? Guilty. On the count of embezzlement? Guilty. Down the list they went. Guilty, guilty, guilty. On every count, every single one. When they reached the attempted murder charge, Serena held her breath. Guilty. The courtroom erupted. Reporters scrambled for their phones. Victims cried in relief. Gregory's face went white, then red, and he started shouting something his lawyer tried to shut down. The judge banged her gavel, calling for order. Serena couldn't hear any of it over the roaring in her ears. It was done. He was guilty. He was going to prison for the rest of his life. Adrian's arm came around her shoulders. She turned into him and finally let herself cry. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Gregory got 40 years for the fraud and embezzlement charges, life without parole for attempted murder. The judge delivered the sentence without emotion, just cold legal facts. Gregory would die in prison. There was no other outcome. He looked at Serena as they let him out. Tried to say something, but the guards pulled him away before the words could land. Serena watched him go and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just emptiness where all the fear and anger used to live. It's over, Linda said, shaking Serena's hand. You did it. We did it, Serena corrected. Outside the courthouse, the media was waiting. Serena had prepared a statement with Linda's help. She stood on the steps, Adrian beside her, but slightly back, letting her have this moment. My father hurt a lot of people, Serena said, reading from the paper in her shaking hands. He stole from them, lied to them, destroyed lives without remorse. I'm grateful to the jury for seeing through his lies and holding him accountable. But this verdict isn't just about punishment, it's about truth. It's about saying that abuse has consequences, that victims deserve to be heard and believed. I hope everyone he hurt can find some peace now. I know I'm going to try. The questions came fast after that, but Adrian guided her to the car, and they left before she had to answer any of them. In the quiet of the back seat, Serena let out a long breath. You okay? Adrian asked. I don't know. I thought I'd feel different when it was over. Lighter, maybe, but I just feel tired. That's normal. You've been carrying this for months. It's going to take time to let it go. What if I can't? Let it go, I mean. Then we figure it out together. His hand found hers. You're not alone in this, Serena. You know that, right? Yeah, I do. That night, Serena couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying the trial, the verdict, her father's face as they led him away. She should feel victorious, should feel like she'd won something, but mostly she just felt empty. She got up, pulled on a robe, and wandered downstairs. The estate was quiet, most of the lights off. She found Adrian in the library, reading by lamplight. Can't sleep? He asked without looking up. No. She sat in the chair across from him. Did you ever get revenge on the man who hurt your sister? Adrian set his book aside. Yes. Did it help? In some ways, it gave me closure. Let me feel like I'd done something, but it didn't bring her back. Didn't erase what happened. He leaned forward. Why are you asking? Because I thought putting my father away would fix something in me. Make me feel whole again, but I still feel broken. You're not broken. You're healing. There's a difference. Doesn't feel like it. Adrian stood, moved to sit on the arm of her chair. Healing isn't linear. Some days you'll feel strong. Other days you'll feel like you're back at square one, but you keep moving forward anyway. That's all you can do. Is that what you did? After your sister died? Eventually, took me years to figure it out. But yeah, eventually I learned to carry it without letting it destroy me. Serena leaned against him, taking comfort in his solidity. What happens now? With us, I mean. The trial's over. I don't have to hide anymore. I could leave, start over somewhere else. Is that what you want? No, but I don't want to be a burden either. Adrian's hand cupped her face, tilted it up so she was looking at him. You're not a burden, He stopped, seemed to search for the right words. You're the best thing that's happened to me in a long time, and I know the timing is shit. I know we met under the worst circumstances. But I don't want you to leave. What do you want? I want you to stay. Build that foundation you've been planning. Help the people you want to help. And I want to be part of that. Part of your life, if you'll let me. Serena kissed him, slow and deep, pouring everything she couldn't say into the touch. When they pulled apart, she rested her forehead against his. I'm staying, she said. Not because I don't have anywhere else to go, not because I'm scared or obligated, but because I want to, because you're part of the future I'm building. Does that work for you? Yeah, Adrian said softly. That works for me. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other, the library quiet around them. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, building the foundation, navigating their relationship, figuring out what normal looked like after everything they'd been through. But for tonight, this was enough. Serena had survived. She had fought back. And now, finally, she could start to live. The building was falling apart when Serena first saw it. Cracked windows, peeling paint, a front door that hung crooked on its hinges. It sat on the edge of the warehouse district, surrounded by chain-link fence and weeds that had reclaimed the parking lot. The real estate agent kept apologizing, kept saying she had other properties to show, better ones. But Serena stood in the overgrown lot and saw something else. She saw rooms full of light, bedrooms where women could sleep without fear, a kitchen where people could share meals and stories, a place that could transform pain into possibility. This one, she said. Adrian, standing beside her with his hands in his pockets, raised an eyebrow. You're sure? It needs a lot of work. So did I, and you didn't give up on me. He smiled at that. Fair point. When can we start renovations? The agent blinked. You want to buy it? But you haven't even seen inside. We'll take it, Adrian said. Draw up the papers. That had been 4 months ago. Now in early spring, Serena stood in the same spot and barely recognized the place. The fence was gone, replaced by a low stone wall with a gate that actually worked. The weeds had become gardens, flowers that would bloom come summer, vegetables that women staying here could tend and harvest. The building itself had been gutted and rebuilt, every room designed with care and purpose. Haven House. That's what they'd named it. Simple, direct, true. Elena came out the front door carrying a clipboard. The furniture delivery is here. Where do you want the beds? Second floor, rooms 3 through 8. The rest we'll figure out as we go. Serena followed her inside, still marveling at how much had changed. The main floor had a large common area with comfortable couches and chairs, a kitchen big enough for communal cooking, offices for counselors and caseworkers. Upstairs were 12 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom, each decorated to feel like a sanctuary instead of a shelter. They'd been working non-stop to get it ready. Adrian had put up the initial funding, but Serena had raised more through grants and donations, learning how to navigate the nonprofit world with the same determination she'd once used to survive her father. It hadn't been easy. There were still people who looked at her and only saw Gregory Vale's daughter, who questioned whether she was stable enough to run something like this. But she'd proven them wrong. Over and over she'd shown up, done the work, made the vision real. Adrian appeared in the doorway with Marcus, both of them carrying boxes. Where do these go? What's in them? Linens, I think. Elena ordered about 1,000 things, and I lost track. Serena smiled. Put them in the supply closet for now. We'll sort it later. He set the box down, stretched his back. How are you feeling about tomorrow? Tomorrow was the opening. They'd invited local officials, domestic violence advocates, the women's shelter network that had agreed to refer residents to Haven House. It would be official, public, real. Terrified, Serena admitted. What if nobody comes? What if we built this whole thing and it just sits empty? They'll come. You've seen the referral list. There are already 8 women waiting for beds. I know, but what if I mess it up? What if I'm not good enough at this? Adrian moved closer, took her hands. Then you'll learn. You'll make mistakes and fix them and keep going. That's what you do. She wanted to believe him, wanted to feel confident instead of like she was one mistake away from proving everyone who doubted her right. But the fear was always there, lurking underneath everything else. A car pulled up outside. Sarah Chen, the journalist who'd interviewed Serena during the trial. She'd stayed in touch, checking in occasionally, and had asked to do a story on Haven House's opening. "I'll handle the tour," Elena said, heading to meet Sarah. "You two finish up here." After they left, Serena and Adrian worked in comfortable silence for a while, organizing supplies and checking items off the seemingly endless to-do list. It was mundane, domestic almost, and Serena found herself thinking about how much her life had changed in less than a year. She'd gone from invisible to visible, from victim to survivor to something else. Advocate, maybe. Builder. Someone who mattered. "Can I ask you something?" she said, breaking the silence. "Always. Do you ever regret it? Taking me in that night? Everything that came after?" Adrian set down the box he was holding, looked at her fully. "No, not once." "Even though it complicated everything? Made you enemies?" "I already had enemies. You just gave me a reason to draw clearer lines." He crossed to where she stood. "Serena, meeting you. It changed things for me too. Made me think about what I wanted my legacy to be. Whether I wanted to keep building an empire on fear or start building something that actually helped people." "You're not going to tell me you're going legitimate, are you?" He laughed. "Not entirely. I'm still who I am, but I've been making changes. Shutting down some operations, redirecting resources. Marcus thinks I've lost my mind." "Have you?" "Maybe. Or maybe I just finally figured out what matters." His hand cupped her cheek. "This place, what you're building here, it's important. More important than most of what I've spent my life doing. You're helping build it too. With money. You're the one with the vision, the drive. I'm just supporting that." Serena leaned into his touch. They'd been together for months now, navigating the complicated space between who they'd been and who they were becoming. It wasn't always easy. Adrian's world still had darkness in it, danger that sometimes kept Serena up at night. And she was still healing, still learning how to trust, how to let someone in without fear of being destroyed. But they were trying, both of them, messy and imperfect and real. "I love you," she said. The words still felt new, vulnerable. She'd only said them once before, late one night when she'd woken from a nightmare and found Adrian there, solid and safe. "I love you too." He kissed her forehead. "Now come on. We've got about 100 more boxes to unpack before tomorrow." The opening ceremony was smaller than Serena had expected, but somehow more meaningful. The mayor gave a speech about community support. A representative from the State Domestic Violence Coalition talked about the need for more resources. And then it was Serena's turn. She stood at the podium they'd set up in the front garden, looking out at the 50 or so people gathered on folding chairs. Adrian sat in the front row next to Elena and Marcus. Sarah Chen stood to one side with her camera operator, and scattered throughout the audience were women who'd survived what Serena had survived, who understood what this place meant. "I'm not good at speeches," Serena started, and a few people chuckled. "I didn't go to business school or study nonprofit management. 6 months ago, I was barely surviving. My father had spent years trying to erase me, make me invisible, convince me I didn't matter, and I believed him for a long time." She paused, finding her footing. "But then something changed. I found people who saw me differently, who believed me when I told them what was happening, who gave me space to heal and the tools to fight back. And I realized I'm not the only one who needs that. There are so many women out there who are invisible, who are hurting, who think there's no way out." Her eyes found Adrian's. He nodded, encouraging. "Haven House exists to tell those women they're wrong, that there is a way out, that they matter. We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to learn as we go. But we're here. And we're not going anywhere." Serena's voice strengthened. "This place is proof that surviving isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning. And whatever comes next, you don't have to face it alone." The applause felt overwhelming. Serena stepped away from the podium, shaking, and Adrian was there immediately, his hand finding the small of her back. "You did good," he murmured. "I didn't cry. I'm calling it a win." After the ceremony, people toured the building. Serena answered questions, accepted congratulations, tried not to think about the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. 8 women were moving in next week. 8 lives depending on her to get this right. One of the visitors was a woman maybe 10 years older than Serena, with tired eyes and a nervous energy. She introduced herself as Michelle. "I work at the downtown shelter," Michelle said. "We're at capacity, always. Having a place like this, it's going to save lives." "I hope so." "No, I mean it. I've been in this field for 15 years. I've seen what happens when women have nowhere to go. They go back to their abusers. They end up on the streets. They disappear." Michelle's hand gripped Serena's. "You're giving them a third option. Don't underestimate how powerful that is." After everyone left, after the chairs were folded and the podium put away, Serena sat on the front steps of Haven House and let herself breathe. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. In a week, this place would be full of voices, of life. Women rebuilding from ruins, just like she had. Adrian sat beside her, handed her a bottle of water. "How are you holding up? Ask me in a month when we have actual residents and real problems. You're going to be great at this." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do. Because you've lived it. You know what these women need because you needed it too." He draped an arm around her shoulders. "And because you're stubborn and smart and you don't give up. Those are pretty good qualifications." Serena rested her head on his shoulder. "What about us? What happens when I'm here 70 hours a week dealing with crises? Then I support you. Help where I can. Take you to dinner when you forget to eat." He pressed a kiss to her hair. "We make it work." "Just like that? Just like that?" It sounded simple when he said it. Serena knew it wouldn't be. Relationships never were, especially ones built from trauma and transformation. But maybe that was okay. Maybe the point wasn't perfection, but persistence. The first resident moved in on a Tuesday. Her name was Jackie, and she arrived with one duffel bag and a black eye that was healing yellow-green. She was 26, a mother of 2 whose kids were staying with her sister while she got safe. She'd left her husband after he'd put her in the hospital for the 3rd time. Serena met her at the door, showed her to her room on the 2nd floor. Jackie set her bag down and looked around at the clean white walls, the comfortable bed, the window with curtains she could actually close. "Is this really free?" Jackie asked. "For as long as you need it." Serena handed her a folder with information about counselors, legal advocates, job training programs. "We're here to help you figure out what comes next." "What if I don't know what comes next?" "That's okay too. You don't have to have it all figured out today." So Jackie's eyes filled with tears. "My husband, he said nobody would help me, that I was worthless without him, that I deserved everything he did." "He was wrong," Serena said firmly, "about all of it." "How do you know?" "Because my father said the same things to me, and I believed him for years. But he was wrong too." Serena sat on the edge of the bed. "It's going to be hard. Some days you'll want to go back because at least that's familiar. Some days you'll feel like giving up. But you keep pushing through anyway. That's how you make it." "Did you make it? I mean, are you okay now?" Serena considered the question. Was she okay? She still had nightmares sometimes, still flinched at sudden movements, still carried scars that would never fully fade. But she also had this: Haven House, purpose, a future she was building on her own terms. "I'm getting there," she said honestly. Little by little. Over the next month, more women arrived. Maria, escaping a boyfriend who'd isolated her from everyone she knew. Tanya, whose husband had controlled every penny and left her with nothing when she finally ran. Lisa, barely 19, pregnant and terrified. Each one with their own story, their own wounds, their own version of survival. Serena met with each of them, heard their stories, helped connect them with resources. It was exhausting and heartbreaking and occasionally beautiful when she saw moments of progress. Jackie landing a job at a local hospital, Maria reconnecting with her estranged mother, Tanya laughing for the first time in the common room. But it was also harder than Serena had anticipated. The responsibility of it, the weight of knowing that mistakes could have real consequences. One night, 3 weeks after opening, she came home to the estate. She still split her time between Haven House and Adrian's place and found him in the kitchen making dinner. "Bad day?" he asked, reading her expression. One of the residents left, went back to her abuser. Serena slumped into a chair. I tried to talk her out of it, gave her every resource, every reason to stay. But she went anyway. That's not your fault. Isn't it? Maybe I didn't do enough. Maybe I missed something. Adrian set down the knife he was using, came to sit across from her. You can't save everyone. Some people aren't ready. Some people need to hit bottom a few more times before they can climb out. It doesn't mean you failed. It feels like failure. I know, but you have to remember, you're giving them a choice. What they do with that choice is up to them. He took her hand. How many women are still there? 11. All of them making progress. Then focus on that. On the ones you are helping, don't let the one who left erase the 11 who stayed. Serena knew he was right, but it still hurt. The work continued. Spring turned to summer, and Haven House found its rhythm. Serena hired a full-time counselor and a case manager. They established partnerships with local employers willing to hire women with gaps in their work history. They set up a childcare exchange so mothers could work or attend appointments. Small victories, incremental progress. And slowly, Serena started to feel like she knew what she was doing. Like this wasn't just a dream, but a reality she was sustaining. Her relationship with Adrian evolved too. They'd moved past the initial intensity into something steadier, more grounded. He'd started stepping back from some of his darker business dealings, though Serena knew he'd never fully leave that world. But he was trying, finding ways to use his power and resources for something better. One evening in late July, they sat on the terrace of the estate watching the sun set. Adrian had been quiet all day, distracted. What's wrong? Serena asked. Nothing's wrong. I've just been thinking. About? He turned to face her. About the future. About what we're building, both of us. And I keep coming back to the same question. Which is? Whether you'd want to make this permanent. Serena's heart skipped. What do you mean? Adrian reached into his pocket, pulled out a small box, opened it to reveal a ring, simple, elegant, a single diamond on a platinum band. I mean, marry me, he said. Not because you need protection or because you owe me anything, but because I love you and I want to build a life with you, whatever that looks like. Serena stared at the ring, her mind racing. Marriage. She'd never thought she'd want that, never thought she'd trust anyone enough. But Adrian wasn't just anyone. He was the person who'd seen her at her worst and stayed, who'd believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself, who'd helped her transform pain into purpose. Yes, she said, the word coming out breathless. Yes, I'll marry you. He slid the ring onto her finger, kissed her like they had all the time in the world. And maybe they did. Maybe this was just the beginning of something that would last. They got married in September, a small ceremony in the gardens of the estate. Elena stood as Serena's maid of honor, Marcus as Adrian's best man. Sarah Chen came to cover it for her paper, but only because Serena had invited her as a friend. The residents of Haven House attended too, along with a few of Adrian's associates who'd managed to go legitimate, and some people from the nonprofit world Serena now navigated. It wasn't traditional, it wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. Serena wore a simple white dress and carried wildflowers from the Haven House garden. Adrian wore a dark suit and looked at her like she was the only person in the world. They wrote their own vows, promises about honesty and partnership, about supporting each other's work, about building something that mattered. When the officiant pronounced them married, the applause was genuine, joyful. Serena kissed her husband, that would take getting used to, and felt something settle in her chest. Peace, maybe. Or just the knowledge that she'd chosen this, chosen him, chosen a future instead of remaining trapped in the past. The reception was casual, held in the same garden with string lights and a small band. Serena danced with Adrian, with Marcus, who was surprisingly good at it, with Jackie, who'd become something like a friend. She ate cake and laughed at toasts and let herself just be happy. Later, when most of the guests had left, she found herself alone for a moment on the terrace where Adrian had proposed. The night was warm, the stars bright overhead. She could hear music still playing in the distance, voices and laughter. Elena joined her, handed her a glass of champagne. How does it feel? Surreal, good, scary. That's marriage for you. Elena clinked her glass against Serena's. You did good today. Hell, you've done good all year. We did good. I couldn't have built Haven House without you. Maybe, but it was your vision, your courage. Elena looked out at the gardens. You know what I think about sometimes? That night your father brought you here. How different things could have gone. I think about that too. But they didn't. You survived. You fought back. You built something beautiful from something terrible. Elena turned to face her. That takes strength most people don't have. I didn't feel strong. Nobody does. But you did it anyway. That's what strength actually is. Adrian appeared, wrapped his arms around Serena from behind. There you are. People are looking for you. Let them look a little longer. Serena leaned back against him, savoring the moment. I'm exactly where I want to be. The months after the wedding brought new challenges and new growth. Haven House expanded, adding a second building for longer-term residents who needed more than just emergency shelter. Serena brought on more staff, developed new programs, partnered with universities to provide educational opportunities. She also started speaking publicly about her experience, at conferences, on panels, and interviews. It was hard at first, exposing her story over and over, but she found that every time she spoke, someone approached her afterward to say thank you, to say they'd been through something similar, to say her words had helped them feel less alone. That made it worth it. Adrian continued his own transformation, slowly divesting from his criminal enterprises and investing in legitimate businesses. It wasn't a complete break. He still had connections, still wielded power in ways that made Serena uncomfortable sometimes, but he was trying, and that mattered. One afternoon in December, almost exactly a year after the trial, Serena got a call from Detective Morris. I thought you'd want to know, he said. Gregory Vale died last night. Heart attack in his cell. Serena sat down slowly. Oh, you okay? I don't know. I thought I'd feel something, relief maybe, or closure, but I just feel empty. That's normal. He was still your father, even if he was a terrible one. Morris paused. For what it's worth, you did the right thing, testifying, holding him accountable. A lot of people wouldn't have had that courage. After the call ended, Serena sat in her office at Haven House, processing. Her father was dead. The man who'd hurt her, who'd tried to erase her, who'd haunted her nightmares, gone. She waited for the grief to come, or the relief, or anything. But there was just numbness. She called Adrian. He came immediately, found her still sitting in the same position. Morris called, she said. My father's dead. Adrian sat beside her, took her hand. How are you feeling? I don't know. I thought I'd be happy, or at least satisfied, but I'm just nothing. You're allowed to feel nothing, or everything, or something in between. There's no right way to process this. He died in prison, alone. Part of me thinks he deserved that, but part of me, her voice broke, part of me still wishes he'd been different, that he'd been the father I needed instead of the monster he was. I know. Adrian pulled her close. I know. She cried then, finally. Not for the man her father had been, but for the one he could have been, should have been. For the childhood she'd deserved and never got. For all the years wasted on fear and pain. When the tears finally stopped, she felt lighter. Not healed. She didn't know if she'd ever be fully healed, but lighter. What do you need? Adrian asked. I need to get back to work. I have a meeting with a donor in an hour. Serena, I know, I should take time, process, whatever. But work helps. Being here, helping these women, it reminds me why I survived, what I'm building from the wreckage. She stood, wiped her eyes. I'll grieve later. Right now I need to keep moving forward. Okay, but I'm here when you're ready to stop moving. I know, and that's enough. The years that followed brought continued growth and change. Haven House became a model for other programs, with Serena consulting on new shelters across the state. She published a book about her experience. Not a memoir exactly, but a guide for other survivors. It became a bestseller, which surprised everyone, including her. She and Adrian bought a house of their own, smaller than the estate, but theirs. They talked about kids sometimes, though Serena wasn't sure she was ready. Maybe someday, maybe never. They had time to figure it out. Jackie graduated from nursing school and got a job at the hospital where she'd once been treated for injuries her husband had inflicted. Maria started her own small business, a bakery that employed other survivors. Tanya went back to school, got her degree, became an advocate herself. Lisa had her baby, a girl she named Hope, and built a life as a single mother with support from Haven House's extended network. Not every story ended well. Some women went back to their abusers. Some struggled with addiction or mental health issues that Haven House couldn't fully address. Some left, and Serena never knew what happened to them. But enough stories ended with hope, with progress, with women reclaiming their lives. And that was enough to keep going. 5 years after opening Haven House, Serena stood in the expanded facility during an anniversary celebration. The place was packed with current and former residents, staff, donors, community members. Marcus had helped organize security, though it was mostly unnecessary these days. Adrian stood near the back, letting Serena have the spotlight. She thought about giving a speech, but decided against it. Instead, she just looked around at what they'd built. Not just the buildings and programs, but the community. Women helping other women, survivors becoming advocates, pain transformed into purpose. A young woman approached her, maybe 21, with nervous eyes and a fresh bruise on her arm. "Are you Serena?" she asked. "I am." "I saw you on TV, read your book. I need—" The woman's voice cracked. "I need help. I don't know where else to go." Serena took her hand. "You came to the right place. Let me show you around." As she led the woman through Haven House, explaining the programs and resources, answering questions, Serena caught Adrian's eye across the room. He smiled, proud and warm. She smiled back. This was her life now. Not perfect, not easy, but purposeful. She'd survived hell and come out the other side, not just intact, but stronger. She'd taken her pain and built something that mattered, something that would outlast her. Her father had tried to erase her, make her invisible, convince her she didn't matter. But he'd been wrong. She mattered. Her story mattered. And every woman who walked through Haven House's doors mattered. That night, after everyone had gone home and the facility was quiet, Serena and Adrian drove back to their house. She was exhausted but satisfied, the good kind of tired that came from meaningful work. "You did good today," Adrian said, pulling into their driveway. "We did good. All of us." Inside, they collapsed onto the couch, too tired to even make it upstairs. Adrian pulled her close, and Serena rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "I was thinking," she said, about how far we've come, both of us. How different things are from that night you met me. Yeah, pretty different. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd made a different choice? If you just paid off my father's debt and sent us both away? No, because that's not what happened. We're here, and this is real, and that's all that matters. Serena thought about that, about choices and consequences, about the paths not taken and the one they'd walked together, about survival and healing and the messy, imperfect work of building a life worth living. "I love you," she said. "I love you too." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, both of them half asleep. Eventually, Adrian stirred. "Come on, let's go to bed." "Can we just stay here? I'm too tired to move." "Then we'll stay here." He grabbed a blanket from the back of the couch, draped it over them both. Serena snuggled closer, feeling safe and warm and home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. More women needing help, more work to be done, more healing to navigate. But tonight, she could rest. Tonight, she could just be Serena, not a victim, not even a survivor. Just a woman who'd fought for her life and won, who'd built something meaningful from the ruins, who'd found love in the darkest place and chosen to keep it. Her father had wanted her dead, but she was gloriously, defiantly alive. And she wasn't done yet, not by a long shot. Outside, the city moved on with its million lights and endless stories. Inside, Serena closed her eyes and let herself drift toward sleep. Adrian's arms around her, Haven House standing strong across town, proof that even the worst pain could be transformed into something beautiful. She'd survived, she'd fought back, and she'd won. Not perfectly, not without scars, but completely, fully, truly. And that was enough.